Hey everybody, my name is Paul Roberts. I'm the Director of Strategic Accounts, and I'm coming to you from Amazon's Generative AI Day. We have thousands of Amazonians here today, but we're going to have a really interesting conversation with our Senior Vice President of the eCommerce Foundation, Dave Treadwell.
Sure, Paul. So I view our team as kind of the layer that supports all of e-commerce that Amazon does above us. Everything that is about buying products, digital goods, etc. So our primary goal is to support all of that shopping and commerce. And we're a layer on top of AWS. So we're sort of in between those two, being a demanding customer of AWS, like many of your other customers, where we strictly use AWS interfaces, just like all other customers do, in order to support all of Amazon's commerce.
That's great. I mean, the scale of Amazon is just massive. And, we certainly learn a lot from you all. One of the businesses that's in your remit that you didn't mention is Prime Air. I'm personally really interested in. There's a lot of innovation there. Anything you wanted to share about Prime Air and some of the things that you're focused on?
Sure. Prime Air is our drone delivery service, and we've been working on it for many years. Recently, we've hit some pretty exciting milestones. We've started delivering with the new Mark 30 drone from 2 locations in the United States, in College Station, Texas, and just outside of Phoenix, Arizona. And Phoenix is especially exciting because it's a real fulfillment center for Amazon. So we have all the product selection that will fit in a drone is available by drone delivery. We're doing a 60-minute delivery promise. And in fact, often we're delivering a lot less than 60 minutes. We've had deliveries as fast as 25 minutes between when a customer clicks buy and when it shows up in their backyard. So we're starting to deliver for real with Prime Air. It's a very exciting program. We think it's going to do really well for our customers.
That's so cool. I recently spent time in one of our fulfillment centers just outside Seattle. And I got to see some of the robots and the technologies happening within Amazon Robotics. And, I understand that we have over 750,000 robots that have been deployed in the fleet. So now with drones, it's pretty incredible with what we're doing. So on that note, in terms of like innovation, generative AI is something that's on top of everybody's minds. There's a lot of things happening across Amazon. And what are you seeing from your perspective across the business?
Well, generative AI is becoming as core to what we do as code. Basically, it's permeating everything that happens throughout our stores technology businesses. We're using it to improve customer experiences directly, like the Rufus shopping assistant that we've released to many, many customers. Allows you to ask queries, get product information, get suggestions on different kinds of products, types of products you can buy. It's really pretty cool, very interesting way to extend your shopping experience. We're also using generative AI for many internally focused scenarios to do things like to improve the quality of data in our systems. One great example is the Starfish program, where we basically use generative AI to make our detail pages, the product pages, with richer information to improve the titles, to improve the language fluency in the product descriptions. It improves the completeness of attributes, the correctness of attributes. We found it to be really amazing in terms of quickly and easily being able to improve our shopping experiences by giving better information about our products. And then broadly, we're finding generative AI to be very successful for making us more efficient as a company. For handling scenarios that today take people a lot of time, we can make them a lot more efficient with the use of generative AI. And we're very excited about what it's going to do for our business and our customers and allow us to ship lots of products inexpensively for all of them.
And that certainly resonates. I mean, specifically in the last point, augmenting human capabilities with artificial intelligence makes so much sense. I wanted to tie, Starfish and Rufus together a little bit because one of the things that the business of Amazon and AWS partner closely on is around Prime Day. And one of the things I think is really notable with Rufus is that, the Rufus team built their own large language model and they're using AWS Silicon to host to actually do the inferencing for those models. There was, over 80,000 accelerators that were used. So pretty amazing. Really cool to see that partnership between the two businesses. And of course, as you said, it does make the buying experience great for our end customers. So really, really do appreciate that. The other question here is that something comes up all the time when I talk to customers, and a lot of our customers focus on developer productivity. And, we think about, coding assistance and other capabilities. What's your approach or your thoughts on helping our Amazon developers be more efficient? Any thoughts there?
Great call out. Improving the productivity of developers is something that Gen AI is starting to do at a big scale already. For example, we used the Q code transform capability to update an enormous amount of our software code to modern versions of the Java Development Kit, the JDK. We estimate that across Amazon, we've saved over 4,000 person years of effort
Wow.
by just automatically upgrading this code. It's kind of grungy, hard work. It's difficult to get right. It doesn't feel very exciting because at the back end of it, all you're doing is using a newer JDK, which is good in the sense that it's more efficient. It reduces latency. So new JDK is good. But the process of changing code to make use of it is kind of grungy, not very fun work. So generative AI through Q Code Transform has been exceptionally compelling for making that process really quite easy. And as a result, we're saving a ton of money, running things more efficiently. We've reduced latency in a bunch of places. But not just Q Code Transform. We're starting to use Amazon Q Developer at pretty big scale. Our developers are starting to see the benefits of having that kind of coding assistant that can fill a lot of the gaps of areas where, just get code out quickly, pull things together for you. So Q as a coding assistant is also being pretty compelling for us.
One of the people on my team, they were actually using Q Developer, and they were building some tooling to enable migrations and help actually copy service quotas between regions, which I know is pretty important as we think about different projects happening across Amazon. So really incredible. I know with Gen AI, like it is a newer focus area for businesses, but it can't come at, it can't all be sunshine and rainbows. Have there been any learnings along the way where you're saying, maybe this is something that we can make more efficient? Anything that you think that we should be focusing more on from an industry perspective with Gen AI?
Well, one area in particular, the space is moving so fast. The right FM today may be a different FM tomorrow. The right way to use it may change. The right way to optimize your capacity and your use of that can change really quickly. It's been one of the most fast-moving technologies I've experienced in my career. And so in order to make effective use of it, retaining flexibility, resist taking too hard a dependency on any layer of the stack. Things like Bedrock really help there. By programming directly to Bedrock and that API, if a new model comes along that has better traits for your workload for some reason, it makes it relatively easy to move to the new model. So really retaining that flexibility is a very important thing to do as things are changing so fast.
Yeah, I think it's really great to call out. I mean, when the Gen AI boom kind of took off, I think people were really thinking about, is there going to be one model that rules them all? And the reality is that there's not. The Bedrock team, there's a statistic, and it's basically 3% of all Bedrock customers are using one model. So it's really interesting. So what that's saying is like there isn't one model to rule them all, and there's going to be multiple different variants. And so we are absolutely seeing that. So I think that is an excellent call.
And it's different models in many different attributes. So there's the quality of the output. Some models are better than others at the quality output. Some have better latency characteristics. Some have better cost and performance characteristics. And because things are changing so quickly, the best latency model today, in 2 months, a new one might come out or a new version one might come out that would change to take advantage of that instead. So really retaining flexibility is quite important in this fast-moving landscape.
No, that's great. On the model side, I had a question. I don't know how deep we can get into it, but you also have a team that your BDT team focuses on data and data catalogs and thinking about things like data governance and data lineage. And I know that is really important because as we start building different models, like, Rufus is our own internal model. How have you guided your teams to think about data, the governance side, the lineage, being able to track who's using it, the provenance piece? Like, any thoughts there?
Well, one thing that we've been spending a lot of time on is making sure that the right people and the right systems have access to the right data. Historically, we took a make all the data available to everybody kind of approach. Many years ago, we did that. And for what we're learning is you really got to be careful about who can get what data. Some of that's regulatory driven, like the DMA controls how different services and people can have access to different data. Some of it's just basic security measures. So we've been spending a lot of time, especially with the BDT team that you mentioned, making sure that we have good controls, good governance on our data. Using low-level AWS capabilities like lake formation has really helped us a ton on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I know there's a huge partnership between the two organizations and lots of innovation happening there. So I think it's really
a good example of us being demanding customers of AWS and making the AWS offerings hopefully better for all AWS customers.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have two more questions, and one's going to be related to Gen AI and one's not. So on the Gen AI front, what's next? Where do you see things going for Amazon?
I don't think that there will be a sudden step function change. I think Gen AI is something that we're going to embrace more and more in all the things that we do. We're going to find that it improves our productivity for our developers, for other kinds of workers. We're going to find that it improves all the experiences that we're offering, especially in the shopping areas that I pay the most attention to. I think that this steady embrace of generative AI is going to really be transformative and make Amazon hopefully an even better place to shop for all our customers.
Yeah, no, I love it. And just the innovation that's happening, certainly with our ads ecosystem. Now ads is doing, text to image, text to video, and there's even, sound generation models. So really interesting innovations happening.
Yeah, content creation is a scenario that Gen AI is very effective for. And I know it's helping a lot of advertisers create advertisements that are more customized, more personalized for the people who might want that.
And that helps, even, folks are trying to generate things on the Amazon store and for the different description pages. Okay, so my last question for you is, when we think about all of Amazon, you've been here for 8 years. We talked about the Prime Air program. I recently got to spend some time with our Kuiper business, but when you look across all of Amazon, are there any innovations that you get really fired up and really excited about that, really helps think about and keep innovation on the front of your mind?
One that I'm super excited about us starting to use is Q Business. The opportunity to use a generative AI chatbot with RAG on our internal data so that it can answer questions very smoothly just using our internal data. It's very compelling. Like you can ask questions about how our internal systems work, some of our policies, and it just kind of falls out. And it's amazing how productive it is.
Yeah.
Once you start thinking about, I bet Q Business can answer this question for me because it's got access to all the Amazon internal data. It's really quite remarkable how productive it makes you just as an information worker. You don't have to go searching, using classic search mechanisms and find 38 pages that kind of have something to do with the thing you're looking for and read 25 of them before you actually get the answer you want. Oftentimes, it just gives you the answer in a few sentences. It's really quite a remarkable capability that I think is going to make making Amazonians a lot more effective.
Yeah, huge plus one for me. I think retrieval augmented generation of being able to plug in additional context into these models so you can have a richer response, super valuable. My team is using it as well. We're seeing huge results. So look, I wanted to say thank you very much for the time today. It was a great conversation and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Paul.